Yes, welcome in. We are a week away from Badgers football getting going down at Camp Randall Stadium against Miami of Ohio. And we won't talk about Miami of Ohio today. We'll save that for next week's shows. But there is plenty to talk about that game. We're not going to talk about game one. We're going to talk about the entire season today as we give our season preview, Jesse. I know you're excited for it. Always one of your favorite shows.
Let's do it. And I'm sure I won't be held accountable for my decisions now when the season ends.
No, of course not. Your season prediction will never get brought up by anybody, including me. And your bold prediction, which I'm sure you've thought of a lot, like spent a ton of time on it, will never be brought up either. So it's going to be fun. Can't wait to get to that. That'll be at the end of the show. However, we do have some news to talk about before we jump into our season preview. So we're going to do that right now. We have a little bit, not clarification, but potential clarification on Nyzier Fourqurean status coming. Is that tomorrow? Right? Is that the hearing is the hearing is tomorrow? The Wisconsin has asked for a injunction that would allow Nyzier Fourqurean to play until his case is decided. The case was originally expected to be taken at the end of September. The NCAA asked for a jury trial, which pushed it to late October, and that's why Wisconsin has decided to. I shouldn't say Wisconsin, but Nyzier Fourqurean has decided to apply for that injunction, and that'll be heard by the same judge that heard his case the first time, that gave him the injunction the first time before it was overturned in the appeals court last month. So that'll be decided tomorrow. The case, he also has a motion to dismiss in front of him from the NCAA, which would dismiss the entire case and would potentially, obviously, make Nyzier Fourqurean ineligible. The case would just go away. The other thing that's still out there, the NCAA has not ruled on Wisconsin on the appeal yet, which has been in front of them for a year. I wonder, or not a year, for a month. I wonder if they're waiting for whatever happens tomorrow to maybe make a decision there. I don't know. It feels unlikely that they're going to change their mind. They're clearly fighting this tooth and nail to the end. But tomorrow's a big day for Nyzier, because if they issue the injunction, then he can play until his case is decided, which would be right now, late October, which would give him at least the first, you would think, 8 games of the season. And then depending on how long that case would take, who knows? But it's all messed up. And you just wish that there was some finality to it. And tomorrow might give you some finality one way. I don't know that if you're a Wisconsin fan, that's the finality you want tomorrow. But it has been a little bit of a saga here this offseason.
Messed up is a good way to put it, Zach. It's unfortunate. It stinks in terms of the timing. And what I found interesting was, we didn't know this, that Nyzier basically got a 30-day window to practice, which expires August 23rd. And that in part is why this is happening, because what's he going to do after that? And now it makes a little more sense when we were wondering what is going on here. Nyzier's getting a lot of these first team reps. Well, if they knew he only had a small window to practice, get him those reps and hope for the best. But of course, given the timing of all of this, you don't have a trial until October. Initially, it was going to be end of September. And you say, well, he misses 4 games. If it goes to that point, you miss one premier game, as they put it, against Alabama. And now you're going into 7 games, a lot of these big time matchups in October, and just hope that this gets resolved. And for Wisconsin's sake and Nyzier's sake, it'd be great if he could play. But one way or the other, I think just being in limbo makes it even more challenging. And from an on-field standpoint, Wisconsin is trying to prepare for a season. As you mentioned, there is a game in 1 week. Is Nyzier going to be out there? Is he not? And if he's not, how long won't he be out there? Because you've got to figure out who's going to play. Deone Hill, Emilio Agard got a bunch of those reps. And as Paul Haynes said, those guys looking like they're going to share reps at that spot. But if you can add Nyzier, a starter at the Big Ten, who, as we saw in practice, at times was dominant, changes a whole lot on the field for Wisconsin.
It absolutely does. And again, it's the same judge that issued the injunction the first time. However, it's a little bit of a different argument on Nyzier's part. The scope of the case is bigger as opposed to being pretty small. That was more focused on his individual case. It's a little bit bigger scope this time, but he also and there are people that do a much better job of following this than I do, including a guy on Twitter. His name's Sam Ehrlich, follows a lot of these court cases. But he noted that there's obviously declarations from an expert economist and Luke Fickell, plus his NIL contract with Wisconsin included in the filing. Unfortunately, the contract itself is under seal, which means we can't actually see what's all there. But including that stuff this time around, I think is if it potentially we get to an appeals. I mean, including that stuff here gives the case a little bit more oomph, you would think, if it got to the appeals part. But it seemed like the judge the first time around was ruled in his favor because of the smaller scope of it, as opposed to a much bigger scope where it's not just focused on Nyzier's case. But again, no clue, zero clue what is going to happen tomorrow. I'm not going to pretend that I do. It just it is a big day for Nyzier, and certainly, obviously, for Wisconsin's defense, and whether they can get him back for the first 2 months of the season until that case is actually able to be heard. And I would assume that if he does get the injunction, they will push off. They will make every effort to delay the trial as long as possible. Like, see if they can push it back another month, and maybe it just won't even matter, and they'll run the timeout on it. But first things first, have to get the injunction, and the case can't get dismissed. So we'll see exactly what happens tomorrow. That's at 2:00 tomorrow afternoon. The other thing that happened this morning, we got word about it on Wednesday, but new uniforms. I should say alternate uniforms, Jesse, and we'll throw them up here on the screen for those watching. For those listening, you can find them on our on UW's Twitter and also on our Instagram. But it's anything that has the old school Bucky for me, Jesse, is A-okay.
It's a win for me. I love the old school Bucky logo. So I know that maybe some people think, oh, it kind of looks like a Nebraska uniform, but it's reminiscent of the mid-'80s Badgers. All that matters is if Wisconsin plays well in it, but it's a good game to pick when you're matching up against Iowa and you say you want to return to your old school roots. It doesn't get much more old school than the Bucky. Yeah,
not those old school roots, though, obviously.
Well,
right? I shouldn't say that. I mean, they had some success in the 80s with Dave McClain. They did not wear these particular jerseys under Dave McClain. I don't think Bucky was ever on the arm. They have the old school W on the helmet along with the stripe. There was 1 year where they didn't have a stripe. It was just the W. I believe that was the final year of the Don Morton era, which is forgettable to say the least, 1989. But it's a good look. I like the look. I would have I've never been a huge fan of the block W by itself. Throw Bucky in there, it changes it up a little bit. It looks so much better, especially the old school one. So maybe at some point down the road, we can get a Bucky on the helmet. But all things considered, not too bad, right?
Yeah, do something different. Nothing wrong with that.
No. And so they'll wear those, as you said, against Iowa on October 11th. And we'll see if it matters. All right, let's jump into our season preview here. And we'll start with question number one, with the biggest question entering week one for Jesse Temple. What is it?
Honestly, can Wisconsin be dominant? Can Wisconsin show that everything that is worked on this offseason will matter to get people excited? And I realize that is more specific to the first game as opposed to all 12. But I do think after what we saw the last 2 years, where you go into your season opener and it's the second half and you're wondering what's going on here? How does this portend for the rest of the season? Like, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be able to be more competitive against some of these tough teams, but just go out there and smash Miami, Ohio with a physical run-first approach to give people some optimism. So for all the things we saw this offseason that lead me to believe there's going to be more creativity and maybe some more excitement, can they just do it on the field? So that's my big picture entering week one.
Yeah, I think the idea of looking like Wisconsin used to, what they were when they were at their best. I think that's a significant question, whether that can be who they are. You take that. I'll take that. And I don't know that we're going to get an answer in week 1, just like you. I don't know that we're going to, you want them to go out and blow them out and feel good about it, and feel good about themselves. I know I actually listened back to our show last year, our season preview for last year. I think we said the exact same thing, which is completely fine. And it's completely acceptable and makes complete sense. I'm going to the other side of the ball. And it's not a question I think we'll get an answer on, though. I think certainly Daquan Finn is going to challenge him. It's whether he can stop the run, because I think the most impactful and the most annoying and the most, not even degrading is a little bit too much of a word, but just the way that teams were able to run the ball on them last year is just takes such a hit to a fan. It takes such a hit to a team. If you get punched in the mouth and punched in the mouth and punched in the mouth and you don't punch back, it just has to be the most, it just has to be the worst feeling inside of you. Like you can't do anything about it. And Wisconsin could not do anything about the run last year, could not stop the run last year. And to me, that is still a major question. They made the effort to go out and get everybody to help them do this and do it in a different way, a lot bigger bodies and all that stuff. But we actually have to see it before I'm willing to say that it's been fixed. And if it's not fixed, it's going to be another very, very, very long season.
Yeah, they ranked 91st in run defense a year ago, and this is what they've built. This is really what they've spent their entire offseason defensively building toward. Pass defense wasn't terrible last year, but it doesn't matter when you get gashed repeatedly in the run game and you're just not able to get off the field. So I think that's a fair assessment. Another thing that I'm interested to see, big picture here for this season, is does this offense yield a greater time of possession, which I think we've talked about this at times the last 2 years, but when you look back and really look at the numbers, one of the reasons Wisconsin's defense was as effective as it was for the last decade was how good the offense was in terms of staying on the field. Of course, the defense plays a part in that. Can you get the ball back to your offense? But like I went back and looked, and these last 2 years, they were like in the 60s one year, in the 80s another year in time of possession, I believe. And over the previous decade or so, they were almost always in the top 10 with at least 3 years where they were number 1. And so all of these things go hand in hand. But if the offense can be more physical, can move the change, it obviously helps the defense in terms of this time of possession and not having to be out there as often.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. It keeps the defense fresh, right? And back in 2021, when they led the country in total defense, they didn't just lead the country in total defense either. They led the country in yards per play a lot. And so, sometimes, like certainly the idea of time of possession matters there because it's keeping your guys fresh, and that certainly matters. But it like that year, it wasn't just because of the time of possession. They were a really good defense, and whether it's total yards or yards, I think yards per play is a real good indicator of just how good you are. And they were insane that year. And sometimes good defense is just good defense.
Yes.
Right. But the time of possession certainly absolutely will help if they're able to run the ball more. And that's exactly what they want to do. All right.
It goes to the complementary football that Luke and this entire staff have been talking about all offseason. So everything
absolutely
helps together.
Absolutely. The unit you feel best about?
I'm going to go safety. It may be small, but when we talked on the last show breaking down what we thought our depth chart would be, the depth chart in the 2 deep is pretty easy to figure out. When you've got Austin Brown and Preston Zachman in your top group, multi-year starters, guys you can depend on, and then you go to the portal and you bring in a Matthew Trainer and a Matt Young, guys who are going to be instant playmakers, I feel really good about specifically that 2 deep. And there are a lot of other units where you look at and say, oh, I might like the starting group, but what happens if somebody gets hurt? I do wonder, though, like Austin Brown had games a year ago where he had 10 tackles in a game, 9 tackles in a game, 8 tackles in a game. I don't know that that's necessarily the best thing because it means the guys are getting up to the second and third levels. But I do feel really good about that foursome specifically. So that's why I'll go with the safeties.
Yeah, I mean, the tackle thing is always interesting. Wisconsin, some of their better defenses had safeties that were way up, right? We know
Caputo.
that. Caputo, Dakota Dixon, like some of their better defenses had guys that played safety near the top of that list. Usually it was the inside linebackers, but for the most, but there were times certainly. Also, the tackle thing is also a little bit because Christian Legro had 16 or 17 tackles against Iowa. How many of those were 9 or 10 yards downfield?
Yes.
So the tackle thing is what it is. But I agree with you. I really like the unit for sure. I'll go different from you. And this one's going to be a little bit because I'm projecting, but I think the running back room is in a really good spot. If we're gonna go offense, if Kevin Haywood had not gotten hurt, I'd probably say left tackle, or not left tackle. I would say offensive line, just because you have multi-year starters in Renfro, Brunner, Malman, and then some really talented kids in Emerson Mandel and Kevin Haywood. That's still a little bit in flux for me. The running back spot is also, we don't know exactly who they are, but I loved what I've seen from Dylan Jones. Darren Dupree looks great. Cade Yakimelli averaged 8.3 yards per carry last year. And then you can throw in Gideon Atuku, who I think could definitely play in on a different team. And I think we may see him in at times this year as well. So those four, you talk about if a guy goes down, they have some other guys who can step in and play. They have some really good depth, I think, at running back this year. And I'd be comfortable with all four of those guys playing. So
there's a lot to like about the running back room. It's just you don't know, because Dylan carried 16 times last year, and Darian carried the most carries he had in a game was 11 last year. And Cade obviously went the last 5 games without getting a carry. So talent, yes, but can you do it on the field consistently? Although it is a good room.
Yeah, again, I just don't know what other room I would go with. There are a lot of ifs here. Because you could look at the corner room. If Nyzier Fourqurean's there, starters, hell yeah. And even the slot with Jameer Latimer, you're like, yeah, that's a great group. Depth is still to be seen, but great group. Inside linebackers, you feel good about the long-term depth of it, but can Takakura stay healthy? And can Christian Allegro taking on a much bigger role have an impact? Defensive line, all those new faces. So, you go position by position. Wide receiver, I like a lot of those guys. They have depth. Do they have a high end number one? Vinny Anthony's a very good player, but I don't know if they have NFL type level talent up and down that room. And I think at running back, especially with those top two, those guys have the potential to be NFL guys. So we'll see. Moving on here. The best player on the roster at the end of the year will be.
I'll go. I'm going to go with an offensive lineman, even though it will be impossible to really understand it each game until you go to the Pro Football Focus and it's like, oh, they had the best pass blocking grade. I think Riley Mallman and Joe Brunner. If I have to take both of them, I'll go Joe Brunner. The question here is how often, or is he going to kick out to left tackle, and what would that mean? But I just really like that combination. So I'll go Brunner. I could pick any number of guys. Like if I really wanted to go out on a limb, and I'd say Mason Reiger, but that's just based on practice. Like, is he going to get 7 sacks this year? And Vinny Anthony feels like more of a sure bet. But you say you want to get back to Wisconsin football, got to have NFL level and O lineman.
It's funny you mentioned Mason Reiger. Again, going back and listening to last year's preview, it was
what did we know about John Pius and Leon Lowry.
I believe it was, we know they're going to be able to rush the passer, but can they stop the run? We were right about that. Couldn't stop the run. Could not rush the passer though. Definitely wrong about that. So that one's going to be very tough for me. I have to go with guys that I've seen. I think I actually went with Ricardo Hallman. I think you had Hunter Wohler, which makes complete sense. Yes. I'll take Riley Mallman just because you took Joe Brunner. He's an NFL guy. He's going to be in the NFL for sure. And so end of the year, feel really good about him. But there's a number of guys that I think could take leaps up. A Dylan Jones, not necessarily to the best player, but an Emerson Mandel, a Christian Allegro, a Tackett Curtis, throw in a guy here and there. Like they have a number of guys that I feel that could take jumps here this year. But if I have to say and put myself out there, I'll go with Riley Mullman as well. And 2 of your best players along the offensive line, that's a very good place to start. All right, let's get into some of these games. The toughest game on Wisconsin's schedule.
I'll go Alabama. There are a lot of choices here. I just think going down to Tuscaloosa in that environment against a team that always has some of the best players in the country, it's going to be. I'll stick with that. I bet you've got a different pick.
Well, I mean, they have a number of options, right? Like you could say Michigan, you could say Indiana, but I'm going to go with Oregon because Oregon is going to be one of the top teams in the country, and also it's a hell of a tough place to play. I mean, Autzen Stadium is routinely and regularly one of the loudest stadiums in college football. It's not the biggest place, but 60,000 and they get after it. So that's going to be an extremely tough game for Wisconsin. It's the start of what is a tough 4-game stretch for them. So those are, that I'm going to go with Oregon. Oregon is going to be my game. Easiest game on the schedule.
September 6th against Middle Tennessee. Miami might be sneaky difficult.
Yeah.
So I think this one's a no-brainer because there are not very many easy games on the Big Ten schedule.
Yeah, we had some opportunities last year to pick. Like I picked Rutgers, I think, as the easiest game on the schedule. Proved to be Purdue, but Rutgers was up there as well in terms of ease of win. That 3-game winning streak that the Badgers had, that they beat Purdue, they beat Rutgers, and they beat Northwestern. And obviously Purdue and Rutgers Wisconsin handled them quite easily. But Middle Tennessee State's the answer here. I think Miami of Ohio was picked to finish second in the MAC. They've routinely been a good team in that league and have a quarterback that could really, really give teams trouble, and Daquan Finn, and the ability to run the ball. And ever since I learned that he was a starter, I've just been thinking about on a Thursday night, late Thursday night, Wisconsin just in a battle, dealing with him and some of his ability to get out on the edge and take off. And I don't know that that's the quarterback you want to face in the first week of the season. I don't even know. Last year in the last 2 years, actually, we did a trap game. I don't think there is a trap game on the schedule unless you think there is. I don't think there is.
I saw the categories that you picked, and that was the one where I went, can there be a trap game when everyone is insanely difficult? Like, okay, Maryland, is that even a so-called trap game? You've played Alabama, you've got a bye, and then you're going to go into October. Is Washington? I mean, they might win 8 or 9 games this year. I don't know that there's a trap game. There is enough really difficult competition to look at that schedule and be like, you damn well better show up every week or you're going to be in big trouble.
I guess instead of a trap game, I would just say a bounce back game would be the Maryland one, because you're going down to Alabama, and they did such a poor job of bouncing back from disappointments last year, specifically the Penn State and the Oregon game just did not. And that was a big focus this offseason, bouncing back, putting stuff in the past, not letting it bother you for the rest of the year. If they go down to Alabama and they put up a fight or get blown out one way or the other, if they put up a fight and still lose, can they rebound and get back going the next week against Maryland? That is the only thing I would look at and say, okay, the closest thing to a trap game is just because you're not refocusing after what happened the previous week. So, but I don't think there is not a trap game on the schedule. I don't think at all. Most important game.
Okay, for me, I'm going to go Iowa. I know that the Minnesota game is that makes a lot of sense given that it's the rivalry, it's PJ Fleck, it's the last game, all that stuff. But come on, you made a lot of these changes this offseason because of what Iowa did to you, where, and I've said this before, it felt like they had 5 different running backs who, based on what you saw that day, could have been Heisman Trophy contenders. You got embarrassed. So if you want to, especially when you think about bowl eligibility, and that's really been the thing we've heard from players. Obviously, they have greater expectations than that, but that's kind of where it starts. You got to win a game like that. You're at home. We just talked about the whole uniform thing. It's going to be a big type of game. And Iowa has had your number of late. So I certainly could say Minnesota and understand why that is an acceptable answer, but I just look at what Iowa did a year ago and think, you spent this whole offseason, you got these 42 push-ups, everything's been built around that. That's why I'm going with the Hawkeyes.
I feel like we've spent so much time together that we think about things very similarly when it comes to this type of stuff. And so, yeah, Iowa's the easy answer, especially in that mix of those 4 games. It feels like the game you have the best chance to win, because it's Oregon, Iowa, Michigan, and Ohio State. And it just feels like the one you have the most chance to win. It's an important game. You spent your entire offseason focusing on it. You did a lot of things this offseason because of what happened down in Iowa City last year. So, yeah, I think Iowa is the most important. I will also talk about Minnesota, though. That has to be a win.
Yes.
I know it's up there, and I know Minnesota has won 3 of the last 4, but you can't, especially considering potentially what your record looks like going into that one. You need to win it. So yes, very important. I don't want to throw some hyperbole out here like he has to win this game or we won't see him here again next year. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you need the axe. You need some of these trophies back in just to give your fan base a little bit of a oomph, because losing that game 4 or 5 years, it's almost like you're Minnesota of the 2004 to 2018. Like they own you. And so, yeah, it's important that you get that win. The game that you're most looking forward to.
Well, Alabama is awfully exciting. Like, it's a bucket list type of opportunity for someone who's never been down there, who may never be down there again.
We'll switch to this. All right, trip most looking forward to.
Yeah,
because it's the same thing for you.
Well, I'm between Oregon and Alabama. I mean, obviously we saw both of these teams a year ago, but to have the opportunity to see that at that stadium in that type of environment, you just know it's going to be special. So I don't know if I can pick one or the other. Obviously the Alabama game is only a couple weeks away. And I do wonder if the Oregon game, let's say it's later in the day, does that make it feel a little bit more magical? Because we know the Alabama game is an early start time. So I'm splitting hairs here, having never been to either place. But think about if you're a college football fan, you hear so much about the SEC mystique. You saw what Alabama was for so long. It's not like they have fallen off to a level that is below the standard, other than they didn't get to the playoff a year ago. Like, I just think both of those are going to be real special. Absolutely.
Since you took those 2, I've been to almost every, until they added the 4 guys out west. I've been to every Big Ten stadium except for Michigan. So, have not been to the Big House. Obviously, COVID in 2020, 2018, Brewers were in the NLCS, and so I didn't get to go to that one. They haven't been back. When's the last time they were there?
I think they were there. Were they there?
22? No, I don't think they were there in 22 because they were at Michigan State in 22. Either way, I have not been there yet, so I'll throw that one out there just to check off the final old Big Ten, and then have to get to work on the expanded Big Ten. Does it count that I've been to the Rose Bowl? Does that count as going to UCLA?
I mean, it's about 100 notches higher that you got to be there for the actual Rose Bowl game. So
yeah,
I'll count it.
Yes. All right. Let's jump into some over-unders here and see if I can get you right there. All right. Over-under, Billy Edwards Jr., total touchdowns, 15.5.
Why did you pick this number?
Because I knew it would give you that thought right there.
I'll go over.
So here's the thing. I originally went passing touchdowns, 15.5. Decided, I know which one he's going to go there. So I put total touchdowns. Probably should jump the number up a little bit, but I'm going to stick with 15.5, and you're going to take the over. So we're obviously talking about passing and rushing touchdowns, and he's going to have some rushing touchdowns this year, but 15.5 total.
Yeah, I'll take the over. I mean, there's 12 regular season games. I know that the passing numbers are not going to be as high as the last couple of years, presumably, but can you get a touchdown a game? Average that? Can you get 13, 14, and then a couple rushing touchdowns? I'm going to go over.
Okay. I'm going to take over. I'm going to take the over as well. I think he's going to have some rushing touchdowns and obviously I think he may hit the over with the passing touchdowns by himself, but it's a number that Wisconsin quarterbacks have not been over very often, right? It hasn't happened a ton. And so that's why I set the number that way. Leading rusher, 850.5 yards or more this year.
I was asked a question for my mailbag that ran today on this, and it was if Wisconsin would have 1,000-yard rusher. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say Dylan Jones is the first 1,000-yard rusher that Wisconsin's had under Luke Fickell. Braylon Allen was close. He was injured. And then obviously Tawee Walker ended up in the 800s. And maybe I'm just, this is a pie in the sky. Again, this is a dude who has 16 carries in his career. But if you want to establish a physical brand of football and run the ball, and we think he's the number one, then what does that amount to? 80 some yards a game. Now, I'm not, I don't feel 100% on this because in part, great defense that you're facing. How many carries will Darian Dupree and Cade Yakimelli get? But I said it, so I'm sticking with it.
All right, that works. I will say under the 850 yards. How many carries a game do you think Dylan Jones is going to get?
I do not know. I mean,
like
15?
Does he have to get to 20? I would think he has to get to between 18 to 20 a game to hit 1,000 yards.
Yeah, probably. That's tough. Like, there's just no way to know what the distribution looks like because we've not seen, and understandably so in practice, you don't see a game-like situation. You don't see, he got the first series, Darian's getting the second, Cade's getting the third. That's certainly going to complicate the path to 1,000 yards. Ultimately, that number matters less than what the total number is out of those three running backs.
Absolutely, which leads us into the next one, which is Wisconsin rush yards per game, 212.5. And do you know why I picked this number?
No, but I was going to ask.
Yeah. So I picked this number because that's what Kansas ran for last year. And Kansas, that number is better than anything Wisconsin's run for since 2019 or since Jonathan Taylor left. So they have not run for that many yards in a game or per game in a season since 2019.
This is probably contradictory because I just said I think Dylan will be 1,000-yard rusher. I'm going to take the under. Those numbers probably don't add up, but Kansas was 13th. Kansas was 13th in the country a year ago. I don't know. This schedule just makes it really hard to know exactly what it's going to look like. Maybe I just think Dylan's going to end up getting the more carries than he's going to end up getting.
I would take 212 any day of the week if that's what they could get. I'm going to say under on it as well. First year back in this new system, we know that they have some concerns injury-wise up on the offensive line. We haven't even really mentioned Dylan Jones been dinged up in fall camp. So just to suggest that he's going to be able to take 18 to 20 carries a game when he hasn't proven it is also tough for me. So I'm going to take the under on that. They are going to be able to run the ball, but I don't know 212 per game is going to be it, especially as you mentioned with the schedule. So Vinny Anthony catches 39.5 and 39 is what he had last year.
I'll take the under. I think I said before, I think, the wealth will be spread a little bit more. And of course, the opportunities you would think won't be as plentiful if you're going to run the ball as much as Wisconsin. So that doesn't mean, I think Vinny's still going to be the team's leading receiver, but if you want to get to the ball, the tight ends, if you want to get some of these other guys involved and you're going to have these wide receivers involved near the line of scrimmage, maybe behind the line of scrimmage, I just don't know how many more opportunities there are going to be.
I'm going to take the over on 39.5.
Okay.
So yes, just because I don't know that they have anybody established on the other side, right? This is no different for me than it was last year at this point, at the end of last year. Now, do I feel better about where they are wide receiver wise than at the end of last year? Yes. But I don't know that means you're going to have another guy that's going to get more than 39 or more opportunities than Vinny. The only guy that could potentially do it would be Tresh Kahuna, and he comes up on our next one. And this number, on the screen, it's wrong. It's actually 500 and a half. So Tresh Kahuna total yards, not including return yardage, just receiving and rushing, over under 500 and a half. Do you know what he went with what he had last year?
No, but what do you got?
So he had 350 total yards from scrimmage
with one carry. I'm going to go under.
You're going to go under? Okay.
500, I will go under.
So that many more opportunities with the ball in his hands, and he's not going to have another 150 yards than he did last year when he was barely used outside of like 3 games.
Well, we'll see how much they line up in 11 personnel. And it's different this year. So
it is, but no, you mentioned the 11 personnel. They don't have Tucker Ashcraft. So we know that they may be lining up more in 11 personnel or, in 21 as well. So like there are opportunities here where I think he's got a better chance.
Here's the thing. I have to make compromises somewhere along the way. I know that I said that under on rushing yards per game, but like if Dylan Jones is getting a lot of yards, where is it being sacrificed somewhere else? That's not to say Treach isn't going to have a vital role in this offense. Kansas averaged 25 and a half throws a game last year. So I get you throw in Treach's potential rushing opportunities and that changes it here. But I suppose I'm approaching this thinking that the run numbers are going to be better than a year ago. And I don't know necessarily what we're going to see out of the passing attack this year.
How many passes did Braden Locke average last year?
Well, passing attempts per game.
That's what I mean. That's what I meant. How many?
I don't know what the numbers were for Wisconsin a year ago, but
they were ranked 87th in the country in pass attempts.
How many was it?
365
for the whole
so
season.
365. Yeah.
There's an old radio. There's an ad I've seen from Radio Shack that says everything you could buy there in like 1990 is all on your phone, including a calculator. So what do we got? 360 divided by 12. That's 30.
365. Yeah. So 30, no matter what, essentially. And Kansas was 5 less than that. Yeah. Kansas. Where is Kansas? I think weren't they last in passing attempts last year? They were ranked 123rd in the country in passing attempts last year.
So I don't know.
Iowa averaged less, and Michigan was just about the same. And we know how good their passing attacks were. So, we'll see.
Are you taking the over? Did you already say that?
Yeah, I'm taking the over.
Yeah,
I'm taking the over. Interception leader. Last year, I threw Ricardo Hallman in this. I'm not going to put him in there because it's not fair in terms of where exactly the ball is going to be going. So I'll just say interception leader, over under 3.5 picks to lead the Badgers this year.
Who had the most a year ago?
What do you want from me, dude? Do some of your own research. No, I'm kidding.
I'm going to go over. I'm going to go over.
They didn't really have.
Who's it going to be? Well, Rico's a good bet. I mean, he had 7 2 years ago. Preston Zachman to me is the sneaky pick here. I think he's always around the ball, and I won't be surprised if he has a really big year.
They had 3 guys with interceptions. They only had 4 interceptions all of last year. And do you know who led them? Preston Zachman with 2.
There you go. Well,
he had 2
this year.
He had 2. Nyzier Fourqurean had 1, and Xavier Lucas had 1. And that Xavier Lucas' first one came in the first game.
Yes, maybe it's because everyone realized they could just run the ball right down their throat.
It's probably good. Yeah, they had a good pass defense. They did, but when you don't have to pass the ball to move the ball, what's the point? So you're going to take the over on 3.5?
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm not talking team. I'm talking
whoever the
player.
leader is. Yeah, someone will get 4. How about that? What do you got?
Wisconsin. I'm going to take the over. Wisconsin leader in sacks, over under 5.5. Last year's number was 6.5. So I've tamped it down a little bit.
I'll take the over.
Really?
Say who?
Yeah, I'll let you. I'll give
Will
you a
one
who.
guy have more than 5.5 sacks? I say Mason Reiger. I say it translates this year. You spent your whole offseason building up some depth in the front, so maybe it'll pay off.
I'm going to say that it is. I'm going to go the under. Prove it. Prove it to me that you have become a better pass rushing team. Prove it. We'll see. It could be Mason Reiger. It could be Sebastian Cheeks. It could be Tyrese Fearbury. They have a number of guys that are going to be have opportunities, but give it to me first. I need to see it first. I'm not going to. I'm going back on. I'm not taking that back, I should say. I'm still very much of the idea of prove it to me. So until that happens, I'm going to take the under on the Badgers leader in sacks. Not going to do the last one here on the screen because I want to do this first. Your one bold prediction for this season.
I was trying to decide whether this should be positive or negative. Wisconsin is 0-6 against AP top 25 teams under Luke Fickell. There's a lot that leads me to believe they might get one or two. But for the bold prediction, I'm going to say there's 6 ranked teams on the schedule and they go 0-6 against those ranked teams on the schedule. They'll be 0-12 against top 25 teams, assuming those teams are still ranked.
So you can find Jesse at badgerconnect.com. That's a bold take to say, well, you know what? I think it's a very,
is it?
It's not. I don't want to say it's not a bold take because they haven't beaten a ranked team since 2021. I believe their last ranked win was either against Iowa or Purdue that year. I think it was when Iowa was ranked number 9 in the country, and that's the last time they stormed the field as well. So you would think at some point it has to come back in their favor, right? At some point, like maybe Illinois is ranked there late in the season and they get a chance at them. Maybe Indiana's not as good as they were last year, but maybe they're still on the fringe of being ranked when they go down there in November. They've played Ohio State extremely well at home. They have not gotten blown out by Ohio State at home in a very, very long time. So that game feel like could be close. The Iowa game could be close. Like they're going to have some opportunities against ranked teams at home and in maybe not necessarily horribly tough places to play. I shouldn't say that about Indiana, but they're not. It's not necessarily known as that just yet. But they're going to have some opportunities to win those games.
I don't feel great about that pick, but a bold prediction is something that's really kind of out there, and there are certainly a couple of those at the end you would think are gettable. Realistically, you look at that schedule and you say there's probably 4 games that you would peg initially as a loss, with having to play Alabama, Oregon, Michigan, all on the road, and then Ohio State. Yeah, that feels potentially gettable, but we're going to do the record prediction in a little bit. So I just, they are much better positioned as a program to win some of these games. But like you're talking about with any number of categories, sacks, whatever, show me.
Yeah. My one bold prediction for the season is they do beat Ohio State, which I believe has been my one bold, was our bold prediction 2 years ago. And almost did it with a backup quarterback. They were right there in the fourth quarter. Had opportunities last year against Penn State and Oregon in the fourth quarter and couldn't get it done. I'm going to say this is the year. They finally beat Ohio State for the first time since 2010 and get that W. And it would be a huge one because we come in that stretch of 4 games that is a bit of a murderer's row when you look at it right now.
But look at you, Mr. Optimistic.
Well, I'm certainly not. Like, we switched spots here for a second because you saying they're not going to beat a single ranked team this year, even though they're going to have like 18 opportunities, is a very negative thing to say from you. I'm usually the negative one, but I'm going to switch it around here and be positive with my prediction because what's the point of being negative at this point? Like what's I look honestly, everybody I talk to, fan wise, it's like they don't even want the season to start. It's like, everything's just so negative, and I totally get it from their perspective, but I just try not to view it that way right now. I'm trying to go the other way with it, and just let's see how it goes before I shit on everything that is Wisconsin football. Like I get it. Last 2 years have not been what you want, but it's a new season, and maybe we just give it an opportunity before we trash it. But again, I'm not going to tell anybody how to fan. You can fan how you want. I'm telling you where I'm coming from mentally. It just the negativity this offseason has been insane and completely worthy of it in many sense, but I'm not there right now. Now, I could be that way. I could be there a week from today, say about 11 o'clock at night, and we're talking about another ugly performance where they didn't blow out a team that they should be better than. And maybe I will jump into the negativity early this year, but I just don't see the point right now. So we'll see. Season prediction, your record prediction for this year.
Okay, so I was asked this question for the mailbag as well, and I know the over/under was 5.5. I think when we were discussing this over the summer, I was inclined to say 5-7. So here's where I'm at right now. I'm going to say 6-6. If you look at the schedule, they should be 3-1 coming out of September. Miami, Ohio, Middle Tennessee, those ought to be wins. Alabama, I would not expect Wisconsin to win that game. Maryland is how you close out the month. You should be 3-1. October might be the hardest month I've ever seen. Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, and Iowa. I think they beat Iowa. I really do. And that means you get to November at 4-4. And then you've got games against Washington. You've got the Illinois, Indiana, and you've got Minnesota. I think they beat Washington, and I think they beat Minnesota. So maybe I would have been better served by saying my bold prediction is I think Wisconsin beats Iowa and Minnesota and gets the trophies back. But I'd like to think I'm just trying to be transparent and honest in what I think, and that can be true. And it can also be true that maybe they don't win some of those marquee games this year. If that were to happen and you go 6-6 and you go to a bowl game and you kind of beat the teams that you're even with or supposed to beat, I don't know how fans would feel about that. Coming off a year where you didn't go to a bowl, you'd feel like it's improvement. To me, this season will be dictated by how competitive Wisconsin is in some of these games against teams that are supposed to beat Wisconsin, and can Wisconsin beat the Iowa and Minnesota specifically. So I kind of look at it like Wisconsin won't win the games that against the teams that are favored significantly or ranked, but that they will be there and win. I think they're a tougher team this year, and they very well could go 7-5. I feel like the window here is 5-7 to 7-5, which is why I split the difference. Anything above 7-5 is to me an exceptional year, but I'll say 6-6 and they get back to a bowl game.
See, now you're being positive again, and I just don't know what to do with you.
I can be both.
I just don't know what to do with you sometimes. So they're going to lose all 6 games against ranked teams that they face.
Yeah, if I look at the schedule now and say the 6 teams that are in the top 20, and then I think they beat the other 6.
So is Iowa ranked right now?
No, they're not ranked.
Will they be ranked when they come here, you think?
I'm just basing it on
I'm just messing with
preseason rankings.
I'm messing with you.
Look, let's be honest. The Illinois and Indiana games, even if those 2 teams are ranked, feel like toss-ups to me. They get Illinois at home, Indiana on the road. We saw what happened a couple of years ago. That was a different Indiana team and a different Wisconsin team. I won't be surprised if Wisconsin wins both those games and maybe pushes to get to 8-4, but I don't want to go out on a limb and say they're definitely winning these games when they've been what they've been the last few years. I just think they're tougher and will win some of these games. So it doesn't look like the Joel Klatt predicting, I don't know if they're going to win 3 games or that they go 4-8. I don't see that for this team, but I'm also not going to sit here and be pie in the sky and say like they're on the cusp of a playoff if they go 8-4 or 9-3 or something like that.
I mean, if they go 9-3 against the schedule, they're going to be on the cusp of the playoff.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. But I'm not I'm not there. I'm just trying to be realistic with where I think this program stands right now. And they've got an unbelievable opportunity to prove me wrong and so many other people wrong with the number of games they're playing against quality competition.
Absolutely. So all that said about me being not Mr. Negative and all that good stuff, I'm going to say 5-7.
What? Come on.
I think they do get out of September 3-1. I think being with my bold prediction, I think they do beat Ohio State in that mix of 4. And then I'm not going to say they're going to beat. I think Minnesota's another one of those wins. Look, as you said, it could go I honestly, you can go 4-8, 7-5, 8-4. There's a lot of toss-ups. Games that Wisconsin has won in the past against teams, but that's not the situation they're in anymore. If they could beat the teams that they used to beat on a regular basis, the Iowas, the Minnesotas, the Illinois, the Indianas, that certainly could be right in that 7-5, 8-4 range. But they didn't do it. They haven't done it. And so until it happens, it's kind of tough to just sit here and say that's what it's going to be. But I want to say 6-6, but that would just be following you, and I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to. So I'm anywhere between 5-7 and 7-5, but I'll say 5-7.
Okay.
And be completely wrong. And we just went, you were
multiple ways to skin a cat, something like that. I mean,
multiple ways to skin a cat.
We may have started off in one place, but we kind of have the same sentiment. A year ago, I said Wisconsin would go 7-5, and I was basing that on that they were going to beat Iowa and Minnesota. Well, they didn't, and they went 5-7. So it feels like it's.
I've changed my mind. Changed my mind.
I'm not
going to let you influence me. I'm going to say 6-6, like I was going to say when I started the show. I'm just going to let it be.
As you should. If you've got them beating Ohio State and they go 5-7, like, man,
what a season. Wild. But think about it. If they go 5-7 and they beat some of the teams they're not beat a team they're not supposed to beat, and they beat Iowa and or Minnesota, that would be 6-6. But like if they get one of those games plus Ohio State, I mean, that's progress, right?
Yes.
No, it's not. I don't know if people will be looking at, you beat Ohio State, but you couldn't beat Minnesota. You beat Ohio State, you couldn't beat Illinois. That's how people will probably look at it. But screw it, I'm going 6-6 and just dealing with it. I don't care if people call us chalk. It's fine. Yeah. All right. We will be this season preview. We have another show coming tomorrow. Going to be talking a little recruiting. Going to be joined by the top player in the state of Wisconsin in the class of 2027, of course, Loken, and talk a little bit about the revamped recruiting that is Wisconsin right now, and with a lot of new faces in that room, right? You had a chance because you did your story. That's coming out tomorrow, right?
Still have to write it, but that would be the hope. Yes, they've.
Sorry, I mean that's the reason we're doing the show was because of your story.
Yeah, they've made some changes trying to keep pace in the ever evolving landscape of what college football is, and hopefully you can read about it real soon at Badger Connect.
My bad. All right, we'll talk tomorrow. Jesse, thank you very much.
Thanks, Zach.
All right, there he is, Jesse Temple from Badger Connect. You've been listening to The Camp.